trying to be something other than who we are is a form of self-abuse, and it is utterly exhausting.
There's still a lot of doubt in me about things. There's still a lot of fear about this illness and am I going to cope? I do try to be more rosy in the way that I respond to people, and I do try to be a bit more like, yeah, things are shit, but it's all going to work out okay and I'm going to be okay.
I like to call it toxic positivity. When you keep trying to polish how you feel to make it sound a bit better, it's a subtle form of self-rejection. The more uncertain and the more unsure you feel right now, the more that tells me that you're not doing it the old way, and that's a good thing. Welcome to this week's episode of In Therapy with me, Alex Howard. And for this week's episode, we're catching up with Lauren to see how she's been getting along. And part of the focus in this session is the importance of stopping and acknowledging the progress that we're making. It's easy to get caught up in the highs and lows of each day or each few days of what's happening. But taking that step back and having that bird's eye view, in a sense, of the journey and the path we're on can be super important. So that's what we're getting into in this week's episode. And here is Lauren. Speaking of the last couple of weeks, you obviously said that there's been some things that have come up and sort of really thrown you. Can you tell me anything about that?
So there's a few things that throw me the last few weeks. I had a session with Alex, I think maybe 3 weeks ago, and I was like sitting in this like bubble of positivity, and I think I went a bit OTT on my positive thinking because he said something about toxic positivity, and I was like, nah. I'm positive, everything's great. I was like, finances will work themselves out, this will work itself out, everything's wonderful. And then literally that afternoon, I went to visit a friend, and I've not driven for a while, for that long. And I was driving back and I went numb on one side of my body. And then I got out the car at the hospital to see my dad, funnily enough, and my vision just completely went. And I'm a migraine sufferer. I'm used to it. So I was like, probably just a migraine, absolutely fine. Then I got my mum to drop me off. I left my car at the hospital because I couldn't drive. And I didn't want her to worry because my dad was in hospital. The last thing I want to do is be like the hypochondriac Lauren who's always got something wrong with her. So I kind of like, off you go, bye-bye. And then was like, got home, and I tried to feed the dogs, but I couldn't coordinate. It was just very scary because I lost strength in my body, and I was aiming for things and I couldn't aim for things, and my vision was going funny, and it wasn't at all what I'd had in a migraine, like to that extent. And then I started to panic, which obviously made it worse. And I was like, oh my God. And so I phoned 111. Fair to them, they immediately sent somebody over. Paramedics checked me out. They took it really seriously and took me rushing, like sirens and everything, with a suspected TIA. They did some scans, CAT scans, and they found a cyst on my brain, which was 11 o'clock at night. Everybody's running around like panicking because, now they found the cyst on your brain. Is this what's causing it? Next day I saw the consultant. They did all the MRIs and all the scans of arteries and stuff. And they said, look, the cyst isn't what's affecting, it's in the wrong area for what the symptoms that you're having. But that, you must have been just a really, really odd, like severe migraine. And I was like, wow, where did that come from? Like complete shock. And when I thought about it and I clicked, and I really kind of like thought about why would that happen? Because I get migraines when I'm stressed. I was like, I'm doing what I've always done with illness, which is everything's fine. Suppress, suppress, suppress. And then it comes out physically in my body. So chronic fatigue was me not dealing with suppressing stuff and coming out physically. And this was like the mother of all migraines, which lasted, I felt terrible for a week. That was my body's way of going like, you're suppressing all the stuff, but it's still, and you're taking your antidepressants, your anti-anxiety and everything, but it's still, yeah. And after that, I've struggled to be positive, but I've also not tried to force the positivity because I'm kind of, maybe I just need to feel and be angry and be upset and be sad and cry, which I'm not a crier, so just let it out. And then also I've got a cyst in my brain. great. Like, they're like, well, you know, it could have been there all your life, or it could be there, just come and it could be growing. Like, you know, so what do? Well, if you get a symptom, we'll do something about it. If you don't get a symptom. So it's kind of like, I've never felt so vulnerable in my life, but in this hospital where people are running around telling me there's something wrong in my brain. I'm on my own, I'm now single, and I just felt incredibly vulnerable. And it's weird that it takes something like that for me to then, it's always something extreme that I find suddenly kind of click and go, oh shit. It can never be like a gentle reminder in my life. It always has to be like denial, you know, something serious. So yeah, it's just, I've not really wanted to talk about that. I didn't do a video thing or diary on that because I just wanted to block it out for a bit. It was just a horrible experience.
How are you doing?
Not good lately.
Okay, well, let's come into it. Firstly, how was it with the first episode going out? How was it for you watching it?
Yeah, I watched it. It was good actually, because first of all, it reminded me that I was in a better place then, which was good to see. And also it was good to hear the stuff that we discussed about, because obviously you go to these sessions and then you walk out and you kind of remember some of it, but some of it it's nice to have a refresher of it.
Yeah, good. And you've sort of had a crazy time because I haven't spoken to you, I think, since you went into hospital, and then you've had also a surgery. So just give me the kind of update on sort of what's been happening.
Yeah, I had a very strange migraine, which they thought might be a TIA. So I spent a couple of days in the stroke clinic, which was at the general hospital, which wasn't very fun. They found a cyst on my brain and stuff, and so they were all kind of worried, but it all ended up not being anything serious, so it was fine. But obviously at the time it was quite a rubbish thing. And
also your ex had just moved out as well, right? The kind of week.
The process of it all happening.
Yeah. Okay, so then that was sort of given the all clear, and then talk me through since then.
So since then I've been ramping up at work, which has been, you know, really good, because financially it puts me in a much more stable position. But obviously it does mean that my energy is being used a lot to do a lot more work, and my routine has kind of fallen away a little bit, because I'm obviously getting up and going to work rather than getting up and doing my nice kind of morning slow routine that takes me till midday. But you know, generally I was doing pretty well.
And where are you at to in terms of hours a week working?
As of this week, I'm up to 30 hours a week.
Crumbs, okay.
I wasn't financially managing, really, so the extra hours kind of helped me. And actually, I was doing extra hours anyway than I was being paid for. And so my manager was like, well, it's clear you're doing more hours than you should be, so let's increase your salary. And that was good. But obviously, it comes with the commitments that you have to then be online a lot more. I think I was doing quite well. And then I had a minor surgery on Thursday last week, but it was still a general anaesthetic. And it seems to kind of like had a bit of a delayed response. I felt great the next day, pretty good Saturday. And then Sunday I started to crash. And then it's just kind of been a bit of a decline since then. So I've just kind of been slowly, I don't know if it's just I had a couple of bad nights sleep, or if it's just all the stress that, you know, the coronavirus is going on, and, you know, people are losing their jobs, and my parents are in isolation because my dad's got cancer, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment.
Yeah. And up until you say, so prior to the surgery last week, where were you at in terms of kind of what you could do, your routine, just sort of, because it sounds like you were on a relatively good track, and then the last week's been obviously quite challenging, but just give me a picture of that.
Even leading up to surgery, I could feel that I was struggling a little bit, but I still felt quite good, like mentally quite good. It was just like a little bit of energy, but I was starting to walk the dogs kind of every now and then, not daily, but like, you know, maybe every second or third day I was taking both the dogs out. I was going to the shops, driving to see friends. I say not all in the same day, but I was
Sure,
kind of going
sure.
and felt my activity was going up, and I was feeling quite good. I helped organise my sister's 30th. I went to my sister's 30th. I let my hair down a little bit, which is great, which is probably why I was already kind of like, starting to feel a bit rubbish. But I think it just felt so good to have things finally kind of falling into place, and to be feeling a little bit better, that I think I might have got a little bit overexcited again.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we look at it from the perspective of loads on a boat, I mean, it's like, I know that it was something that you chose to do, but going through a breakup is an enormously emotionally draining and challenging thing. So you've got that. And then you've got the fact that you're ramping up at work, and you've got the fact that you're starting to kind of open back up to the world, and sort of the kind of implications of just managing
as
that.
the world closes off to me, yeah.
As the end of the world suddenly starts to happen, and the whole thing completely disintegrates into, just kind of the word unprecedented starts to feel like kind of every other sentence. And on top of that, you've had a general anesthetic and surgery. I'm not surprised that you're feeling a bit delicate and a bit fragile. I mean, if you think about a number of things happening at once, that's a lot that you've been through in the recent weeks.
It's funny, I never think about it until somebody says it back to me. I think, oh, everything's done, finally things are calming down, but actually they're not necessarily calming down. I think my head feels a lot clearer since I've got the constant kind of overthinking and feelings I had about my partner have now been that's not there anymore. That like constant, like, I have to make this decision, have to make the right decision, that, the analyzing whether I've made the right decision, all that kind of stuff. That stuff I feel like it's all gone now, because that was leading up to him actually moving out. Like,
yes,
it took me a long time to make this decision. It was months of like going back and forth in my head, and it was using up my energy, Also the frustration I had with him, even though he was a wonderful guy, the frustration I had that he wasn't really able to support me the way I needed to be supported was always there. And I feel like that, I was like so relieved that kind of hole was filled, if you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
But I kind of have not really neglected kind of my self-care, I suppose, in everything else.
Yeah, and it sort of sounds like you've been in somewhat of a survival mode over the last month or two, like just dealing with the physicality of him moving out, sorting the house out, and new people coming in and increasing work. Like, it just, like, what really comes to my mind for you right now is like, how do you support yourself through what is an inevitable kind of rolling with some punches and just sort of like finding your feet again? So I kind of wonder, how have you been with yourself whilst you've been in a much more delicate place over the last week or so? Have you been gentle with yourself? Have you been kind of expecting too much? Like, what's that relationship been like?
I think I've been in a find distracting myself a little bit and doing a bit more than I should, because it's a distraction from dealing with like everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit and think about the memories of my partner. It's very easy to sit there and dwell on like what went wrong, and think about all the good memories that we had and stuff. And sometimes that's quite overwhelming. So it's easiest to sometimes to just, let me just focus on work.
Yeah.
And, there's so much going on. Like, one thing I feel like I do quite well is my job. Let me just kind of do that. But that is also what made me sick in the first place, I suppose. Yeah.
It sounds like what would be helpful for where you are right now is a sort of return to some of the core fundamentals, in a sense, like getting a solid daily structure and routine in place, making sure that you've got daily meditation in place, working on stop process to watch out for your mind kind of going off into catastrophizing and kind of overwhelm patterns, and just sort of almost like over the next few weeks, really work on cultivating the best healing state and the best healing environment that you can to support yourself.
Yeah. In a way, the coronavirus is giving me that option or excuse, really, to kind of go back into a little bit of like isolation, if you like, if you know what I mean. So the pressure to go see family and to see my friends, and everybody's like, oh, come around. I'm like, well, no, actually, you know, my doctor called me, has told me that she thinks I'm in a high risk category. And, you know, I've been told, you know, recommended that I self-isolate for 12 weeks. And it kind of gives, I'm probably not going to be super strict about it because I don't think I'm that high risk, but it does give me that kind of get out of jail free card again.
Yeah, it gives you the chance to build up your energy reserves over the coming few months, which I think is a really good thing for where you are at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. And like, if I'm really honest about it, I'm having a bad day today. This is probably the worst day I've had in maybe a month.
Okay.
But it's not as bad as it's been in the past. And I actually think I might be coming down with something like a cold, not the coronavirus. I think that might be also because I was sick today, so some sort of bug. So I was vomiting this morning. So I think I have a bit of maybe something I've eaten. So I think that it could be that as well. So I'm not going to go like, oh, I've had a massive crash and this is like a week in bed, because actually I've been having even though I've been struggling a bit over the last week, it's actually been it's still been loads more than I was doing a month or 2 months or 3 months ago.
Right. I think given all that's been going on and the fact that you had a general anesthetic less than a week ago, like given all that's been going on, I think you're doing great. And I think that it's a sign of the physical progress and the psycho-emotional progress. And I suppose the question is, what are the things that you feel like you need to focus on over the coming weeks to sort of support you, given all that's been going on, and also to sort of get back up to the level where you've been?
Like exactly what you said a little while ago, routine.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to get into a routine, and I'm trying to get back into a routine. Before, my routine was very much like wake up leisurely, you know, let the dogs out, have a cup of coffee. Well, I use chicory root. It's not really coffee, but like have my like non-coffee coffee with soy milk, which is complete failure of coffee. But anyway, and then do my yoga, you know, then have a nice fire infrared sauna, my meditation, and that takes you up to about midday. And then I would do my 4 hours work or whatever. But now I need to kind of, because I'm doing kind of 7 hours a day, maybe 6-7 hours a day. I need to kind of be more like strict with myself and like getting up a bit earlier, doing my yoga, doing my fire infrared sauna, and getting it all done and giving myself that 2 hour earlier. Yeah. So that I can still start at like 10 o'clock in the morning and do my 7 hours of work, you know? So it's routine.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's sort of adjusting to how do you fit those things into your routine, given where you are at this point in time, and also knowing you've got other people in the house, and how do you sort of navigate your space around that. And I think it just takes a bit of experimentation to find out what that looks like and how that works.
It's laziness as well. So when you're feeling a bit better, you're like, this doesn't matter if I miss this session, doesn't matter if I miss that. You get a bit complacent because you start. And then I noticed, I was like, wow, I've not really been meditating like religiously like I was. And then when I've been trying to meditate, I've not been able to get into that zone, because I realized you have to be doing it quite frequently.
Yeah, that's right.
To be able to work. And I was like, right, I have to start being strict on this again. I'd go back to basics and do like the Headspace course all over again, because I did like the 3 levels of anxiety meditation on Headspace. It's like 30 days, I think, or 30 sessions. And that, it was just the consistency of doing it at the same time every day. You know, I first started doing the 10-minute ones, and then by the end of it, I was on the 30 and 40-minute sessions, you know. But I need to get back into this, and I need to force myself, even though I'm like my lazy I'm not sure if I'm lazy, but there's this part of me that's just like, oh, I'd rather just go like make a cup of tea or do something as active, because that's what my natural instinct, I think, is to do, is to be busy, not to rest.
I think what you're describing is a really good example of having made progress on the recovery path, which is great, but almost because you've made progress, kind of letting go some of the things that have been the source of that progress and slipping back into some of the old tendencies. And then what starts to happen is the old tendencies sort of hijack the progress, and it sort of becomes, oh, well, I'm only making this progress. You know, if I push, I'll be able to do more. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So rather than I'm going to work on calming my system, listening to my body, getting into a healing state, and that's going to be the foundation of progress. That is the foundation. But then what starts to happen is, oh, well, if I just push a bit more, and if I do that, if I manage that, then I'll feel like I'm doing really well. And it's almost like we try to placate people try to placate their anxiety by proving to themselves that they can do more. So you go to literally the opposite pattern, which was the origin of the progress, to try and continue the progress. Then the progress starts to slip and starts to fall away. And you're not yet at that stage where you're ready to start dropping away those key principles.
Yeah. Yeah. I even I know it, and this is part of me, this niggling bit of me that's going, you're just getting back into old habits. Yeah, I just don't want to hear it. Just give me a break. Just let me live my life and be free for a while. And then you get cross with yourself because you're like, oh, if I just kept up with stuff. And it's like the same cycle of, I guess, what made me sick. And in my mind, I remember our first session where you were talking about I'm prime candidates to kind of relapse and stuff. And I was like, I'm like, I am, 100%, because the minute I get a hint of energy and my old life back, I just want to go for it,
That's it. And the way that you prevent relapse is you really work this issue now, because you're seeing it, right? You're seeing energy starts to come back. You stop doing the things that are helping and you slip back into the old patterns. And that's probably, you're going to go through a few cycles of that over the coming few months. And the faster you learn and the more you sort of navigate that differently, the faster you move through this stage.
Yeah.
And, given that you were being sick this morning and you've had a major, a general anesthetic less than a week ago, you might just need to give yourself a few more days just to sort of find your feet and to rest and to build up your sort of core energy to then sort of get back on track as well. And that's also okay. It doesn't all have to start right now in this moment. It's clear what needs to happen. But if you need a few days to sort of get on track, that's of course fine.
Yeah. And I think that for me, because I have had every intention every morning this week, but it's not really, I've just not really had the energy in the mornings. I have done small yogas and I've done little 10-minute meditations, but this morning I woke up and I was just like, as my day off work, I'm literally just going to sit in my pajamas and watch reruns on TV because it's very mindless and just let myself rest because I'm not feeling well and whatever. And so you're right, maybe I just need to stop putting the pressure on myself. I have to have it perfect tomorrow.
Right.
And just give myself a few more days, because I've been doing that thing where I'm like, okay, you have to start tomorrow and you have to be perfect, and then being really disappointed with myself in the evening because I haven't done my routine again.
Your perfect tomorrow will be to leave yourself alone and let yourself rest for a few days, let yourself bounce back, and then the energy will inevitably come back and you'll start wanting to push, and that's the point. You need to not push and put in place the structure and the routine.
Yeah. Agreed.
You don't get out of ME chronic fatigue with the same strategy that put you in it.
Yeah.
So you're going to give yourself a few days to take it a bit easier. You're then going to get some structure and some routine. You're going to come back to the core principles, the things that you need to be doing. And anyway, that you're on an upward trajectory. So it's not like we're trying to take something which is not moving and create a kind of momentum from nowhere. What we're trying to do is to get back on track and continue with the forward momentum, which is significant. So, you can also relax in the confidence of knowing you are on the right path and things are moving forwards. It just needs some gentle realigning and some time and space.
And someone to be accountable to as well.
Yeah, but part of that is also being, you're somewhat accountable to me, I suppose, and the millions of people that watch these episodes, but also you're accountable to yourself. And that's part of the change that's happening at this point, that you're sort of going from doing it for your, to be accountable to your kind of partner or to kind of, to teachers or to parents or to you're also moving your frame of reference to being, doing it for yourself as an act of self-love and self-care, not because you're trying to impress anyone or trying to get some kind of outcome from someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying out. And I actually really enjoyed watching the episode yesterday on self-love, because I was like, okay, you got there. You were getting there.
Yeah.
and you've just fallen off a little bit because of all stuff going back. But I can get back there again.
Totally.
Without being too toxic positive and ignoring everything, and kind of find the balance. But because sometimes when you have a rubbish day, you just think that you can't see past the rubbish day.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I was feeling the last couple of days. Not been feeling great. And so watching that was like, why don't I need to listen to myself more? Because I know it, I believe it, I've been there, got to a better place, but it just always seems to go out the window when I have a bad couple of days.
Yeah, and that's okay. Sometimes it goes out the window for a few days. That's okay. The main thing is that you then get yourself back on track and you don't give yourself a hard time for that. Any other questions that you've got?
No, don't think anything.
I think ultimately you are on a good track. We just need to get things back on track and just but I would definitely give yourself a bit of a break the next few days.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Yeah, I think actually she's making really good progress. I mean, poor girl, she's been through a lot over the last, month or so. End of relationship, general anaesthetic, people moving into the house, ex-boyfriend moving out of the house. It's just all changed, and actually the fact that she's sort of basically handling it really well is its own sign of progress in a sense. And, it's a good opportunity for her to learn to be really gentle and supportive of herself. And then, get things on track. And I think there's a really good foundation here, things move forward. So I'm pleased with how she's doing.
She sounded like she was sort of throwing herself into her work a little bit more. Is there a danger?
Yeah, well, I think there's that real... It's so easy for her to slip back into that achiever pattern and that pushing pattern, and that's... we just need to really avoid that happening at the moment. It's just not helpful.
Because her saying, watching back her first session... she was saying that, she knows what she needs to do, but as soon as she's away from that for a little bit of time, she kind of goes back to the default.
Yeah, and that's common, it's like we go back to the old habit and then we sort of realise and you have to go through that process a few times to retrain your system, and then the new habit becomes the old habit and it becomes conditioned, but you just have to be on it and you have to be kind of attentive and disciplined to train that.
Yeah. But good.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm pleased. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of In Therapy. And I think it's an important reflection for all of us, whether we're on a healing journey from fatigue or chronic fatigue or ME, or just working on progressing and transforming parts of our lives, to remember to step back, to acknowledge the progress. It's so easy to get focused on what's not working, as opposed to giving ourselves the credit we deserve when we've been working really hard at making changes and those changes are happening. I'd love to hear your reflections, your thoughts too. Please do share in the comments below the video. I really like hearing how these episodes land with you guys. I think it's also really helpful for others to hear your experience as well. Please do also like the video and subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell. It helps tell YouTube this is content worth sharing. It's also a great way of making sure that you stay in touch with new episodes. Next week on In Therapy, we're going to be coming back to Hannah and seeing how she's been getting on. It's a particularly emotionally intense episode, and I think it's a really good example of how to work with our emotions in a supportive and holding way, but where we really are, we're starting to open up to what's happening. Talking of which, if you haven't already registered for the Trauma and Mind Body Super Conference, please do. We've got 90 of the world's leading experts on trauma and mind body healing. And there's some awesome registration gifts. In fact, one of the pieces of work that I've been doing with all of the In Therapy participants is looking at their relationship to their feelings and their emotions. And one of the free gifts that you can get access to immediately as part of the Trauma and Mind Body Super Conference is a 1-hour session from me exploring the 6 different emotional styles. So if you want to take some of this work in therapy and apply it to your own process, it's a great way, just that session alone, I think a great way of supporting that. So thank you for watching, and there'll be an episode, I think, of Everyday Alex tomorrow. So I look forward to hopefully talking with you then.
I was really trying to connect to my body and feel that, but at the same time, the feeling I had in my body was so overwhelmingly strong. Oh, Jesus, how can I not be feeling this?
The worst way to work with something like this is to try and push the process. The more one tries to push the process, the more that part feels under threat, the more the stress response actually starts to come.
I felt like I was quite on my own. That's gone now, but it's just, I want to move on and let go of it, but I just find it very hard to do that.